Hi, welcome to the Interaxis YouTube channel, interaxis.io. We're going to start talking now about a different type of incentive structure going on with the incentive structures that have come about in the blockchain world and cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. And we're going to talk about staking or proof of stake. So we talked previously about proof of work and how Bitcoin basically gave the incentive to all these decentralized distributed miners to create, to go ahead and keep the ledger and process the transactions. So now we're going, all right, how are we going to process those blocks in a different way? Because what we found with the Bitcoin and proof of work is you needed a lot of electricity, a lot of energy, and it got to the point where people had to actually contribute, pay a lot of money. You actually had to invest a lot of money in your mining equipment, in your electricity, to be able to process. So that could get to the point where you create some level potentially of centralization, and it wasn't necessarily sustainable to keep growing a network of computers that are able to in a decentralized, distributed way process the transactions, and that might not be totally sustainable when you look at across all the different cryptocurrencies, right? If every cryptocurrency had to have proof of work mining, then are you really helping yourselves? And it's really not helpful for the environment. It uses a lot of electricity, a lot of parts, all of those things. And again, it could potentially centralize things. There are all sorts of other reasons why proof of stake came about, but what we're talking about is the incentives that we're trying to create. So in Bitcoin, you had electricity issues, you had capital requirements, right? You had to put in money to the mining ring. So now what we're looking at is potentially proof of stake. What are we doing with proof of stake? If we go back to this, the very basic idea of it is you need to process a block, right? Because the whole goal of this, part of the goal of proof of work mining is, in the decentralized way, it keeps the security of the network, right? So we're also trying to maintain the security of the network, the fact that it can't get hacked. And if you have enough distributed decentralized miners, you have to, if you have enough decentralized distributed miners in the proof of work ecosystem, it makes it harder to attack the network because they will all have the incentive to actually keep mining. There's not enough incentive to try to hack the network. Okay, but because of the capital requirements, it gets to the point where there are not as many companies, people, whatever you want to call it, that have the capital in order to purchase the miners and purchase the electricity and everything. Then you can end up with a centralized faction that has all the miners, and now you don't have a secure network. You end up essentially with banks, right? The miners are now acting like banks because there could be so many of them consolidated together, and they can actually attack the network. They can actually grind it to a halt. They can move it backwards, whatever you want to call it, because now you're not as decentralized. So how do you get around that? Because you have to process these blocks. You have to give people the incentive to process the block. So let's call this the Interaxis token, right? And let's say that we're trying to process certain blocks, process certain transactions on our chain, and you have all these. You have Ron, Adam, Alice, and Bob all have Interaxis tokens, right? And Ron has 1,000 of them, and Adam has 500, and Bob has 2,000, and Alice has 1,000. Okay, so now it comes time to process this block, and they all decide how much they're staking, how much they're going to put into the pool, into the ping pong ball container, in order to have the potential to process that block and win the reward. So let's say Ron stakes 500 of his 1,000, Adam puts in 500, Alice puts in 1,000, and Bob puts in 2,000. Okay, so now there's 4,000 total. Okay, Bob has a 50% chance of getting his ball pulled and being able to mine this block and win this reward. Alice has 25, and Adam and Ron each have 12.5. Okay, so that's how this works. It's just a statistical. This is the number of ping pong balls essentially that are going to be thrown in, and one of us is going to win, and this is the percent chance. Then, of course, we have delegated proof of stake, where someone else, say Jane, can come in here with her Interaxis tokens and delegate them to me. So let's say she has 1,000, she wants to delegate to me. I now have 1,500, and I'm going to put those in, and I'm going to have a higher percentage of winning. That is essentially what staking and then proof of stake. But the idea is now we don't need all that electricity. We don't need all the miners in order to run the network and keep it secure. The incentive, part of the incentive we're trying to create here, and this is the incentive structure that some of these other tokens have built, part of the incentive structure is Interaxis. If we've launched our token, we don't want these people that have bought it to go sell it on an exchange every time it goes up. We want to give them the incentive to keep the network moving forward, because if we don't keep the network moving forward and these people just sell because the value of the Interaxis token goes up, then we're not actually helping, because within here we might be trying to create a media network, and we want to facilitate this process, and we need the transactions to keep going. And in order to do that, we need all these people to hold on to their tokens. We need to give them the incentive to do that. And if the value goes up, if the incentive is Alice bought her tokens for $1 each, and they've moved up to $5, right? And so she's made that, her $1,000 has turned into $5,000, she might go sell them on an exchange. Well, we go, look, Alice, we need you to hold on to those tokens. We need people to hold on and continue to stake, because that is what's going to keep our network safe, and that's the only thing that's going to drive this decentralized media company we're trying to build. That's the incentive, that's the behavior we're trying to create the incentive around, is hold on to your tokens and use them and keep putting them in and staking them to the point that you will get some sort of reward, X percentage of the time you will get some sort of reward, and in the long term that'll be better than this huge run up in price. That's kind of the incentive structure that we would be trying to, or that's the behavior we're trying to incent with this type of incentive structure. Now, there are other reasons for proof of stake, of course, but part of the incentive is we don't want people to sell when the price goes up. One of the great things about decentralized finance, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, what have you, is we've created all these exchanges all over the world, whether they be, quote, centralized or decentralized, but they're not tied to any particular governing body, so they can just pop up anywhere. Again, they can be decentralized or centralized exchanges, so whatever the value, whatever someone else will pay for this token, I can sell it for that. But I want people to have the incentive to not sell. I want them to have the incentive to continue to stake, because what I ultimately want, if I've launched this token in this company, is for the network to go forward in a safe and secure way. I don't want someone to come in here and buy all the tokens, drive the price up, buy all the tokens, and then they essentially get to control the network and control the company. So the incentive structure here is we need to give people the incentive to stake, to put their tokens in the pool for every block, and have the opportunity to earn rewards, and they earn transaction fees as well. So that is part of the incentive for staking. The delegated proof of stake just says, Jane, if you go buy these tokens on the open market, maybe you bought some from Alice over here when the price went up, and you now want to stake, you don't have to run your own node. You don't. It might say that that everyone has to have 10,000 tokens to run it. Well, Jane might not have the ability to buy 10,000 tokens. Maybe she can just buy 1,000, but she wants to participate. Well, she can now. We're giving her the incentive to say she gets to have a cut of whatever I'm earning, whatever Adam is earning on this staking, and that's the delegated proof of stake. So part of staking is giving people the incentive to actually continue to keep their money in the pool and not go sell it on an exchange, because if they sell it on an exchange, you again have that chance that someone with deep pockets comes in and buys it all, and then they're essentially controlling the network, because they could have like an 80 or 85% chance of processing each block, and now all of a sudden you don't have really a decentralized distributed network, because you haven't distributed who is actually clearing the transactions anymore. It's only those with the deep pockets that are able to do it, and because of that, they can actually change the network, right? It's not secure anymore. You need to have it distributed. So that is a little bit on the incentive structure of staking. The idea is, or among the ideas of the incentive structure in staking and delegated proof of stake is, hold your money within the network for whatever this chain is trying to do, because that's the way we're going to keep it secure, and that's the way we're going to keep it moving forward in a decentralized way. And if you go sell on an exchange because the price went up, then we might not be as decentralized and distributed as we would like. Therefore, we're going to give you the incentive, and the incentive is, if you hold it, if you put it in the pot for every one of these blocks that we're trying to process, we need to have enough people trying to process each block that it's decentralized, and everyone's got a chance to actually win a reward. Otherwise, the network is going to cease to move forward. Remember, Bitcoin, the proof of work, the idea that the block rewards go down, but the transaction fees are going to keep going, that's because you always have to have miners. The network doesn't work without miners to process the transactions and keep the ledger. So we have to give them the incentive. This is the incentive to continue to have stakers that are going to keep the network moving forward, because even after we've issued the tokens, even after they've gone up in value, we still need people to actually stake their tokens to keep the network moving forward in a safe and secure way. Otherwise, it ceases to be decentralized. So that's a little bit about the incentive structures involved in staking. Hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit us on our website, interaxis.io, on Twitter @interaxis8, number 8. And we will see you in the next video.